Rose had been Jack's bed companion for 3 years. After a passionate night together, Rose rested her head on Jack's arm and quietly asked, "Have you ever thought about us getting married?" Jack, who was a staunch believer in not marrying, remained silent and turned his gaze elsewhere. Rose felt a chill in her heart and realized that she couldn't waste any more time in a relationship with no future, so she decisively broke up with him. When Jack learned that Rose was about to marry her boyfriend, his calm was immediately shattered. He quickly bought Rose's father's company and, as the boss, went to her family's house for dinner, coincidentally meeting Rose's fiancé. During the meal, Jack was cold to everyone but showed special care toward Rose. Rose's fiancé, recognizing Jack's status, warmly invited him to their wedding, causing Jack to choke on his drink. Jack excused himself and intentionally blocked Rose at the staircase, saying, "That man isn't right for you." Rose, however, thought he was just meddling. That night, Rose's fiancé introduced her to his friends, but Rose felt out of place in their social circle, so she made an excuse to step outside. Unexpectedly, Jack appeared, pinned her against the wall, kissed her forcefully, and whispered, "I missed you." He wanted Rose to come back to him, but Rose was clear-headed and knew this man couldn't offer her the future she wanted, so she slapped Jack, only for him to kiss her again, even more forcefully. This scene was witnessed by Rose's fiancé, and Jack wore a smug smile. Jack revealed an audio recording of Rose's fiancé. It turned out that he had known about Jack and Rose's relationship for some time, and was planning to use Rose to gain benefits from Jack. This action deeply wounded Rose's pride, and she cried in pain, vowing to sever all ties with Jack. However, Jack was not about to let go. He hired Rose as his niece's dance teacher and took her along to a friend's gathering. At the gathering, Jack's ex-girlfriend appeared, hoping to rekindle things with him, but Jack was cold toward her. Rose didn't want to get involved, so she got up to leave. Jack rushed after her and, noticing Rose was jealous, smiled, and explained that he never returned to his exes. Rose reminded him that she, too, was an ex, but Jack pulled her into an embrace and said he had never agreed to break up. He kissed her deeply. On one hand, Rose told herself not to be deceived by Jack's sweet words, but on the other hand, she couldn't help but fall deeper into it. They kissed their way back home, becoming intimate on the couch. Just then, Rose's parents arrived unexpectedly. Rose hastily hid Jack, but her mother still found a condom on the floor. In a panic, Rose kicked it toward Jack, but fortunately, he managed to dodge it in time. Jack's ex-girlfriend found Rose and showed her matching tattoos with Jack, mentioning that Jack would visit her tonight. This made Rose furious, so she immediately went to meet the matchmaker her mother had arranged for her. The matchmaker was a refined university professor, and Rose found herself attracted to him. But Jack suddenly appeared, grabbed her, and when the professor asked Jack's identity, Rose lied and said he was her brother. But the next second, Jack kissed her, exposing her lie, and forcefully took her away. Jack angrily confronted Rose, asking why she had gone on a blind date. Rose showed in the photos her ex had sent her, implying that Jack had been with his ex. Jack fell silent, pressing the accelerator, ignoring the phone calls from his ex. When they reached the parking lot, Jack couldn't resist kissing Rose fiercely and carried her into the bathroom, warning her not to wear such bright lipstick when meeting other men. Rose retorted, "Can you stop meeting your ex?" The next day, Jack received news that his ex had been in a car accident, and Rose went to visit her. In the hospital room, Rose showed off her affection with Jack right in front of his ex, making her furious. Jack was unhappy with Rose's jealousy, but Rose felt that as his girlfriend, she didn't even have the right to feel jealous. They parted on bad terms. Rose got drunk at a bar and unexpectedly met her blind date, the polite university professor. A video of them together was uploaded online. Jack was furious, but Rose pointed out that he had also seen his ex, so they were even. Jack, seething with anger, kissed her fiercely in the car. Just then, the professor sent Rose a message inviting her to his house. Jack, jealous, grabbed her phone and deleted the professor's contact. Rose's father praised Jack for his actions, as Jack had scolded his ex for being rude to Rose's father, which made Rose somewhat change her attitude toward him. However, the next moment, Jack sent a message telling Rose to come downstairs. She didn't want to get into the car, but Jack came down, picked her up, and took her back to his place. In front of Rose, Jack called his ex to announce he was cutting ties with her. Eventually, Jack gave in to Rose, making her a little happy. Jack asked her to repay him with her body, but Rose avoided his kiss. She wanted Jack to be her true boyfriend, not just a bed partner. Jack didn't agree, and Rose, feeling that he only needed a secret lover, while she wanted a normal relationship, proposed breaking up again. Jack warned her that if they broke up this time, it would be final. Rose left without looking back. Suddenly, Jack felt intense pain in his heart. He took out his medication, but it spilled all over the floor. It turned out his mother had committed suicide after his father's affair, leaving him with a huge psychological scar, which was why he rejected marriage. Meanwhile, the professor's mother saw a video of Rose with her son and mistakenly thought Rose was his girlfriend, so she planned to offer a generous dowry. Rose's mother met with the professor's mother and they hit it off, but the professor promised to explain things to his mother soon. However, they ran into Jack, who coldly ignored them. The professor asked Rose if she had broken up with Jack, and Rose nodded. The professor was overjoyed and hoped that she would pretend to be in a relationship with him to appease their parents. Rose agreed. After they dealt with their parents, Rose happily sent the professor off but was suddenly pulled into a hallway by Jack. Jack angrily questioned if she had already been sleeping with the professor and whether marriage or sleeping with him was next. Rose insisted it was none of his business. Jack threatened to teach the professor a lesson, which scared Rose. She hugged Jack and explained that their relationship wasn't what he thought. In his fury, Jack punched the wall, shouting, "I won't allow you to marry anyone." After a while, Jack realized his outburst and apologized, promising not to seek her out again. Rose begged him not to cause trouble for the professor, but Jack, consumed by jealousy, pulled her in for a kiss. To her surprise, someone took a photo and it went viral, with reporters calling her a promiscuous woman. Rose, feeling wronged, was soaked in the rain. Jack took her to the hospital. When she fainted, Jack discovered that his ex was behind the scandal. Rose asked him how he planned to deal with it, but Jack didn't respond. Rose, heartbroken, told him not to come after her anymore as she didn't want to be targeted by his ex. In the following days, Rose faced insults and even objects thrown at her, but the professor stood by her side. He sincerely asked Rose to be his girlfriend, offering the kind of normal relationship she had always wanted. Rose agreed. The professor, thrilled, hugged her. Outside, Jack stood, listening in solitude. Jack ruined his ex's family financially as punishment for hurting Rose, but he didn't tell Rose about it. The professor's mother liked Rose and gave her a family heirloom bracelet. The considerate professor noticed Rose's stress and helped her refuse her mother's advances. Rose felt relaxed around him. Just when she thought she might marry him, Jack suddenly fainted, sending Rose into a panic. Jack had no family around, and his niece was abroad, so Rose had to take care of him. When Jack woke up and saw Rose by his side, he realized she still had feelings for him. He angrily demanded to know why she was still seeing other men. Rose felt it was a mistake to care for him and stormed out of the room, only to be stopped by a well-dressed woman, Jack's sister. Jack's sister knew of his love for Rose and scolded him severely when she learned that he had chased Rose away. Jack thought Rose would come back to him as before, but his sister bet that if he didn't change, he would lose her forever. Rose and the professor kissed goodbye at the airport, but Jack, furious, was about to confront the professor when his sister held him back, telling him to face reality. But Jack wasn't listening, and once his sister left, he found Rose and forced her to break up with the professor. Rose cried in pain, and Jack suddenly realized he might have made a mistake. He quickly hung up the phone. "Wouldn't it be better if you just stayed with me?" Jack pleaded, but Rose said she craved a normal relationship, which Jack couldn't provide. She locked him outside and cried. The torrential rain poured down, but Jack remained standing outside Rose's door. Rose had made up her mind to ignore him, but not long after, she tried calling Jack's sister, only to be met with no answer. Feeling helpless, she reluctantly opened the door, holding an umbrella, and told him to leave. Jack, shivering, pitifully pleaded, "I'm cold. Can I come inside?" Rose felt like he was playing with her, and angrily walked away. But just as she did, Jack suddenly collapsed on the ground, scaring Rose so much that she quickly took him to the hospital. At the hospital, Rose was shocked to see that Jack's phone wallpaper was a photo of the two of them together. She then used his phone to call his friends, but none of them answered. In fact, Jack's friends' phones had been confiscated by his sister, deliberately creating an opportunity for the two of them to be alone. When Rose tried to leave, Jack begged her to stay with him. She insisted she couldn't betray her boyfriend. Furious, Jack pulled out his foreline and said, "If you don't care whether I live or die, then I don't need this treatment," and pretended to leave the room. The nurse, scared, urged Rose to take care of Jack. His childish behavior infuriated her, and she stormed out of the hospital, ignoring Jack's furious calls to the nurse to contact her, which she ruthlessly rejected. The next day, Jack appeared at Rose's door in his hospital gown. He instinctively reached for his slippers, but found that Rose had packed up all his things and thrown them away. He asked if she was really going to abandon him, then pulled her into an embrace, pleading for her not to leave him. But Rose coldly rejected him and had Jack's sister take him away. Before leaving, Jack swore, "Unless I die, I'll never let go." Jack's sister scolded him mercilessly, telling him he should tell Rose the real reason he couldn't marry her. But Jack was afraid. If Rose knew about his mental illness, she would surely despise him. Distraught, Rose drowned her sorrows in alcohol, and Jack came to take her away. Drunk, Rose stubbornly refused his support, and in the process, she fell down the stairs, forcing Jack to rush her to the hospital. The doctor bandaged her hands and reminded Jack to take care of her. Jack, obedient, tried to take Rose home again, but she refused once more. This time, Jack didn't argue. He quietly followed her home. Has he finally given up on me? Rose wondered to herself, but she didn't feel as relieved as she had imagined. The next day, the professor, having heard about Rose's injury, drove for hours to visit her and even planned to cook for her. Rose was deeply touched. Just as they were about to kiss, Jack knocked on the door. He swaggered into Rose's house, and the professor, unfazed, openly showed affection for Rose in front of him. Rose suddenly felt sharp pain in her stomach, and Jack remembered it might be her time of the month. Before he could act, the professor quickly picked Rose up and took her to the bedroom, letting her escape the situation. Jack and the professor made a bet. Jack believed Rose still loved him. The professor, however, promised to respect Rose's choice. Jack patted his shoulder and said, "That's where we differ. Anyone I like, I'll never let go." The love triangle soon reappeared at Rose's parents' house. Rose and the professor were there for dinner when Jack happened to drop off Rose's father. The two rivals came face to face again. During the meal, Jack complained to Rose's mother about his ex-girlfriend, claiming that she still had feelings for him while dating other men. Rose's mother gave him a few scolding words, but Rose interrupted with a sarcastic laugh. Once the professor left, Rose confronted Jack, demanding to know what he wanted. Jack earnestly confessed that his life felt empty, and Rose was his only solace. He then kissed her forcefully. Rose angrily pushed him away, scolding him for being selfish, unable to give her the marriage she wanted, and forbidding her from marrying anyone else. Every time Rose tried to give up on Jack, he reappeared, stirring her emotions, leaving her heartbroken. Jack knelt down and said, "I promise, we'll get married." But before he could finish, the professor rushed out and punched Jack to the ground, shouting, "Stay away from my girlfriend." Jack, however, wore a smug grin on his face, confident that the professor stood no chance against him. Jack then collapsed to the floor, and Rose rushed to check on him, her concern sharp as a knife. This scene pierced the professor's heart. It seemed clear now who Rose truly loved. Jack's friend attempted to go after the professor, but Rose stopped him. The professor, heartbroken, turned to leave, but Rose followed him. They sat at a roadside stall, sharing a bowl of noodles. The professor cried quietly, asking Rose if she wanted to break up with him. Who do you think Rose will ultimately choose? Please leave your answer in the comments.